action. Embiid for the lead. Simmons the tip. Did it come before?
When Ben Simmons burst onto the scene in 2015 as the #1 ranked recruit in high school, the comparisons were non-stop. From LeBron James to Magic Johnson, there was no shortage of NBA greats for Simmons to be compared to. Now, in 2021, Simmons is subjected to intense criticism from the media and constant ridicule from the fan base. Not just because Simmons looks hesitant to shoot, we as fans always knew he was a poor shooter, but because Simmons looks hesitant to be himself. The 6'9" stretch guard, with an uncanny ability to defend multiple positions, has outstanding court vision with a knack for finding teammates, tremendous ball handling, and an excellent touch with either hand on both sides of the basket. When recently videos surfaced of Simmons refusing to take part in defensive drills and being sent home by Doc Rivers, the NBA world confirmed its worst suspicions. The Ben Simmons problem is real. The Philadelphia 76ers organization and fan base pride themselves on trusting the natural flow of things. It's not a coincidence that the tagline with which a 76ers rebuild was undertaken turned out to be "Trust the process," a tagline that symbolized the organization's and the fans' belief in building through the draft and trusting the training staff to help their players achieve success. Now, contrast that with the lack of trust that the organization, players, and fans show Simmons, a player they drafted #1, linked by legacy and style to the greats of the game, and expected to raise the city of Philadelphia from a decade-long obscurity and an even longer championship drought. What exactly happened? Today, we will cover the Ben Simmons situation in Philadelphia, how it came to such extremes, and whether it's still a salvageable situation for the Philadelphia 76ers. Let's rewind back to Simmons' year at LSU, where Simmons put up terrific numbers individually, but he struggled to help his team consistently at the college level. With his team finishing a disappointing 19-14, college scouts at the time raved about his physical talents and potential, but also highlighted his passiveness and other engagement issues, which resulted in some scouts labeling him as lazy and pointing out a competitive issue that would become more prominent in NBA circles. When he started playing professionally in 2017, after sitting out a year due to injury, he played quite well, winning Rookie of the Year in a tough race against fellow budding superstar Donovan Mitchell. The one-year layoff due to his injury had served him well, as he regularly uploaded videos of workouts and came with a muscled frame for the subsequent seasons. Signs of a work ethic he seemingly doesn't display anymore. The 76ers' record that year of 52-30 was the best they had in 15 years, dispelling doubts raised since his college days on whether he could impact his team positively and win. Slowly, his shooting problem was too glaring to overlook. He would play well in the regular season and early playoffs, but as soon as defenses tightened up and didn't allow for many slashing maneuvers, his impact would slow down considerably. An early example of this was the series against Boston in 2017-18, where the 76ers would have a dismal 63 points when Ben Simmons was on the court in the series, showing his offensive inadequacy, such as the absence of a mid-range and low-range repertoire that is essential to survive in the modern NBA, where zone defense is allowed. While all this was happening, Simmons did not stop shooting. Don't get me wrong, he couldn't shoot well, but at least was willing to pull the trigger. His playoff series against the Heat and the Raptors showcased how Simmons could be a game changer, but his lack of shooting abilities always let him down, not his refusal to shoot at all. With Embiid, he formed one of the most dynamic duos in the league and competed furiously in the East. Why then did the 2020-21 postseason reveal to us a Simmons quite different to the one we had been accustomed to? Why did we see a timid Simmons afraid to shoot? One who would pass the ball underneath the basket in a Game 7 against the Hawks, instead of dunking it tomahawk style like he usually did? The answer is confidence. Not just in the confidence of your abilities, but the confidence of your teammates with whom you sacrificed so much together for the dream of lifting the Larry O'Brien trophy. Why? Simmons' teammates lost confidence in him. The signs weren't clear to see at first, but with Embiid's recent interview, where he talks about Simmons, everything becomes crystal clear. Our job is not to babysit somebody. At this point, I don't care about that man. He does whatever he wants.
At this point, I don't care about that man, honestly. He does whatever he wants. That's not my job. That's those guys' jobs.
It is clear to anyone watching that the locker room has turned on Simmons. likely after their loss against underdogs Atlanta Hawks last playoff, where Philadelphia sports shows and radio stations bashed Simmons and even Embiid in failing to control the metaphorical Robin to his Batman. As somebody who plays team sports will tell you, there is no worse situation than your own teammates turning against you, which, unfortunately, has happened to Simmons. Simmons, of course, is not completely to blame, as the coaching staff has also let him down in regards to his training and integration into the team, as we will discuss later in the video with Doc Rivers and his comments on Ben Simmons, particularly after their postseason loss to the Hawks. Many media personalities and former NBA players claimed that the combo of Embiid and Simmons was doomed from the start, as both required spacing inside the key. Embiid for his post moves and Simmons for his slashes to the basket utilizing either hand. However, this is not a big issue when they do play together. Simmons and Embiid average good win shares per minute and tend to win more together than when one is injured. Injuries are another issue both deal with. Embiid's frame and the explosive power he possesses have always caused him back problems, which has plagued him constantly. With Embiid rarely being 100%, the pressure tends to fall more on Simmons, as we can see from the stats on Basketball Reference, where he averaged more field goals and minute per game when Embiid was not on the floor. This also includes his 42-point barrage against the Utah Jazz. But the added pressure is not just during the game. Whenever Embiid is injured, Simmons is expected to pick up the leadership role in a locker room filled with veteran players. Not to mention, college analysts never placed his leadership qualities and maturity on the same level as the greats he was being compared to, LeBron and Magic. All of these subtle issues led to the practice session where Simmons gave up on the Philadelphia 76ers, just as they had done when rumors started going around that Ben Simmons was on the trading block, available to the highest bidder. Now, professional sports and the organizations that manage them have always been cutthroat while conducting business. Just look at the example of DeMar DeRozan, who was traded from the Toronto Raptors in order to get Kawhi, or how the Boston Celtics traded away Isaiah Thomas. However, let's not forget that these players are also humans, capable of feeling strong emotions of loyalty towards their teams. Simmons not showing up to practice and just generally being uninterested might be his way of showing his displeasure at what he perceives as being betrayed. Recently, Kevin Love opened up about his experiences with mental health while being a celebrity sports athlete who was expected to play regardless of their well-being. He talked about the expectations that fan bases, organizations, and players put on an individual player and how hard it is to cope with all that while making sure that you are ready to perform and be in the best shape possible. Love's words here are almost prophetic when it comes to talking about the options a player is left with, which is to either give up or push through. We are seeing the exact thing happen with Simmons, who has started to give up on the 76ers organization. Let's analyze Doc Rivers' interview after the Game 7 loss. Instead of accepting Simmons' mistake under the basket and his general bad performance throughout the series against the Hawks and moving on, he brushed off questions relating to Simmons' future in Philadelphia and said he was unsure if Ben Simmons can be the point guard of the future for the 76ers, basically giving up on his player and making him lose his confidence even more. This also allowed the locker room to vent their frustrations on Simmons, as the coach himself was highlighting how Simmons might have been a disastrous mistake for the 76ers organization. Because let's not forget, Simmons was drafted exactly to be the point guard of the future and nothing less. Although recent developments have indeed painted a dark picture, the Philadelphia 76ers, who are probably aware of the mental strain pro athletes go through, are showing signs of wanting a reconciliation with the point guard. Simmons, too, has been vocal about wanting to stay in Philadelphia and wanting to improve his game. He hasn't stopped coming to the facility and is currently being treated for his upper back stiffness. He has kept working out with his trainer and keeps working on himself mentally and physically. In a recent video uploaded on NBA on ESPN YouTube channel, senior writer and analyst Ramona Shelburne highlighted that the relationship between Simmons and the 76ers is getting much better. Part of the concessions being that Ben Simmons will no longer be fined for missing practices. This improvement in relation likely comes from the fact that the senior management staff, coaches, and even the general manager talked to Simmons in depth, discussing his problems and accepting the fact that Simmons is just not mentally ready to play. Let's hope that Simmons realizes the tremendous opportunity of being able to play with a dominant big man like Embiid and starts contending earnestly again. Otherwise, their unique duo might end up being reminiscent of another, more tragic duo, namely that of Shaq and Penny Hardaway, who were both generational talents that played together in their primes for the Orlando Magic, and who ultimately failed to attain the coveted Larry O'Brien Trophy.